Hi there, this is Emily Muhlstein with the Gulf of Mexico Fishery Management Council, and this is a public hearing video on a framework action that addresses yellowtail snapper gear requirements and fishing year. We'll start off with good news. Yellowtail snapper is neither overfished nor experiencing overfishing. The stock of yellowtail in the southeastern United States spans both the Gulf of Mexico Fishery Management Council and the South Atlantic Management Council's jurisdictions. 75% of the stock's acceptable biological catch is managed by the South Atlantic Council, and the remaining 25% is managed by the Gulf Council. We are working on this framework because regulations in the Gulf and South Atlantic are different, and commercial yellowtail fishermen often fish in both jurisdictions on one trip. So the Gulf Council is considering altering some of their regulations so they match up better with the South Atlantic. The first action in this amendment considers hook requirements for commercially harvested yellowtail. So right now in the Gulf, anglers are required to use non-stainless steel circle hooks when catching reef fish with natural bait. However, in the South Atlantic, if you are south of 28 degrees north latitude, anglers may use J-hooks when fishing with natural bait. The first alternative is the no action alternative, and that would leave things as they are in the Gulf. The second alternative would remove the requirement to use circle hooks when commercial fishing for yellowtail with natural bait in the entire Gulf of Mexico. Alternative 3 would remove the requirement to use circle hooks when commercial fishing for yellowtail using natural bait south of that same 28-degree north latitude in the Gulf, and that's at about Clearwater Beach. Alternative 4 would remove the circle hook requirement for commercial yellowtail fishing south of 25 degrees 23 minutes north latitude on the west coast of Monroe County, Florida. That's out Shark Point, and that would go south to the Gulf jurisdictional boundary. And finally, Alternative 5 would remove the circle hook requirement for commercial yellowtail fishing south of 25 degrees 9 minutes north latitude on the west coast of Monroe County, Florida at about Cape Sable, south to the Gulf jurisdictional boundary. And moving on to Action 2, which addresses the Gulf fishing year for yellowtail snapper. Right now, the Gulf fishing year starts on January 1st and runs through December 31st. And the South Atlantic recently voted to change their fishing year so it begins on August 1 and runs through July 31 of the following year. Peak spawning for yellowtail is the months of April through August, so changing the timing of the fishing year would protect summer spawning if there is a quota closure. There are 3 different alternatives here. The first alternative is the no action alternative, and that would leave the Gulf fishing year as it is. The second alternative is one of the Council's current preferred alternatives, and that would modify the yellowtail fishing year for the commercial sector. There's a couple of different sub-options here. You could start the season June 1 and let it run through May 30th. You could start it July 1 and let it run through June 30th. Or the Council's current preferred would open at August 1 and let it run through July 31st. And then the final option would be to start the season on September 1 and end it October 31 of the following year. And finally, Alternative 3, which is also a current preferred, would modify the Gulf yellowtail fishing year for the recreational sector. And again, you have the same sub-options here as in Alternative 2, and the Council's current preferred is Option C, which would open the fishing year on August 1 and run it through July 31st of the following year. The Council would like to hear your thoughts before taking final action on this amendment. You can either submit your comments online by clicking this button below, or you can email us with comments or questions at gulfcouncil@gulfcouncil.org. Thank you so much for taking the time to let us know what you think.